Wrapping up this 4-video weekend here on Chairshot Reality on WrestleZone.com. Every single weekend you can go to WrestleZone.com, the WZTV tab. You can also go to WrestleZone and Chairshot Reality social media and find more shorter clips there. And you know, it's been 368 weekends, 368 episodes of Chairshot Reality. I don't think we've ever had him on, which seems like a travesty when you think about it. Happy to be joined from New York City, our WrestleZone.com editor, Nick Paglino. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing great. What is this Chairshot Reality I keep hearing a lot about?
Just a little basement show with a recorder, you know? That's all it is.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on the milestone, brother.
Yeah, we keep on moving. 400 sooner than later. Nick, let's. It's great to have you on, and let's talk about something that is obviously it stole the headlines this week. And let's go piece by piece because there's different levels to this. Let's start off with Money in the Bank, the historic first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and it ends in controversial fashion with James Ellsworth, a man, climbing the ladder, dropping the briefcase to Carmella, thus technically having her get the win. A lot of outrage by this. Are you part of that outrage?
Yeah, I am. You know, just on many different levels. You know, and for me, you know, I am not one of those people who finds a match finish doesn't necessarily ruin a match for me. For instance, earlier in the night, or actually the match right after that match at Money in the Bank was the Usos versus the New Day, which I thought was an amazing match. I hated the finish, but the finish didn't ruin the match for me because it was such an excellent in-ring match and both teams worked so well together and worked so hard. That wasn't the case in the women's Money in the Bank match. So for me, to answer your question, I am part of the outrage. I hated the ending. It didn't make much sense. But for me, I more so did not like the match itself. This was a match that was being built up as you said, a historic event, a first of its kind, women's Money in the Bank match. You had vignettes, really well done vignettes, with all of the women participating, talking about what the match meant to them and what it was going to be like competing in this match. Natalya saying over and over again it was going to steal the show. And in my opinion, it was the worst wrestled match on the show. Forget about the ending. Forget about the finish. There was just really nothing memorable about the match at all. And so to me, that was the biggest travesty.
Well, that's an interesting take and not one that many people are talking about. And I will agree with you to an extent that the match, it felt like that the girls, the women, were probably told over and over, please be careful, please be careful. And maybe that got in their mind. It did feel like there was some hesitation with some of those spots in the match. But so I will agree. The match itself, bell to bell, was not not as big maybe as expectation would have liked it to be. But with the finish now, the controversy that a man did it and it's so disrespectful to women. To me, yes, in storyline, yes, it's disrespectful. That's what they were going for. Every woman in that match then took to Twitter and said how they're going to break James Ellsworth's arm. And to me, it's like, yes, get invested. That's what they want. Get invested and get mad, but be aware. Be aware that this is it's not like that these women were actually training for 6 months and that this is a legitimate competition. It's not like somebody walked in on the LPGA Tour on a golf course, a man, and took the club from a woman and made the putt. You know, I guess I've never ceased. I don't know, maybe it's my own damn fault. I never cease to be amazed by wrestling fans' ability to get worked so incredibly hard, but deny they get worked and try to take this on a whole different, realistic path that WWE is setting a bad moral tone. I just think it's just entertaining soap opera TV. I don't know.
Yeah, and I can understand where you're coming from there, but again, I think it was being built as something that what you wanted to see here was the women. If this match finish happened in the men's Money in the Bank match, if this were all of a sudden someone ran in, if Ellsworth ran in the men's Money in the Bank match, people would probably be complaining, stupid finish, didn't really like the screwball finish, but they wouldn't care because how many men's Money in the Bank ladder matches have we seen in the past? But this is the first time we are seeing this with the women, and it was all about the women. And if they hadn't built it like that, if James Ellsworth was a wild card throughout the build-up to this, and if they were building the storyline of will Ellsworth get involved, will he not get involved, then I could potentially that kind of would have been a blanket for the eventual fall of the match at the end to kind of cushion the blow. But it was not. This match was being built, and you were being told as an audience member, you are going to see the women do something that is going to make history. And yes, it did make history because it happened. But I think for a lot of people, and the two people that I was watching the pay-per-view with said the same thing, it just happened. There wasn't much there other than all we're talking about now, a week removed, days and days removed from the pay-per-view, is James Ellsworth. That's all we're talking about. We're not talking about the amazing effort from the women. We're not talking about the amazing match that the women had. Now, I will say this, Justin, and to go to your point about the women potentially being told to be cautious, this is always a problem when you have two of the same gimmick match on a pay-per-view. People always complain about it at Hell in a Cell. They complain about it at Money in the Bank. If there's two Hell in a Cell matches, one of them is always far inferior to the other one. And that's WWE's fault. That's not the competitor's fault. I think that's WWE saying, we want to make sure, we want to be very careful that only one of these two matches is the match that really gets over here. And we don't want the other match to steal the spotlight. So, at Hell in a Cell, there's usually a Hell in a Cell match that opens and one that closes. But at the end of the day, people always say, man, the one Hell in a Cell match was so inferior to the other match. And I think that's done by design. So I agree with you there, Justin. I think the women were probably told, don't go out there and steal the show from the men, because we don't want people remembering the women's match more than we do the men's match. But at the end of the day, we should be remembering, and right now we should be talking about the memorable things that the women did in the Money in the Bank match as opposed to James Ellsworth.
Well, to that big point that you made, perhaps it is part of the big plan, because coming up, we're going to have a rematch. On SmackDown Live, we're going to have a rematch. So maybe it was a case of, look, you guys are the opening match. You guys are here just to set up this bigger story that's going to unfold with Ellsworth and Carmella. Let the men be the showcase for the night. Let them be the main event spot. But coming up in a couple of weeks on SmackDown, we're going to let you guys be the shining moment of SmackDown, probably the shining moment of the whole damn month of programming. And that's maybe where we get the truest, the realest, most authentic performance from those ladies. And, of course, the story continues to unfold however it does with Carmella and James Ellsworth. I mean, what are you looking for in this rematch now that the briefcase has been stripped from Carmella? And by the way, I do find a little bit of irony and comical irony at that everybody was mad, male or female, but those that were mad about a man grabbing the briefcase and tainting the finish, and then it took a man and Daniel Bryan to correct the situation and strip the briefcase. Maybe it's just me. I find irony to that.
That's true. It's true. A little bit of irony there, but we'll see. It's going to be very interesting on SmackDown Live to see this match because, well, okay, first part of your question, what am I looking for? I'm looking for the women to have the match that they should have had at Money in the Bank. And I'm not talking about the finish, because they could do the exact same finish again. I mean, obviously, they're not going to do the exact same finish. It would make zero sense from a logic and storyline perspective. And also, James Ellsworth has been banned from the match unless he figures out some way of getting in. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a second. But again, I think a lot of people, at least I was really kind of hoping that the men's match would have opened Money in the Bank and that the women would main event. I think people wanted to see the women shine in this match. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing in the rematch on SmackDown Live. I want to see the women shine in this match and get the opportunity that they were not given at Money in the Bank despite the finish. Now, to the finish of this match and how is this booked, there are a lot of people who may be of the ilk, and I'll ask you this question, Justin. Let me ask you this. Do you think that, and if you had to guess, is this match, this rematch, taking place, and the whole stripping of the Money in the Bank briefcase on SmackDown and this rematch now happening, do you think this was the original storyline heading into Money in the Bank? Or do you think this is reactionary to all of the controversy and all of the fan response and all of the rage that's coming out of the fan base? Do you think this is a response to that, or this was the original storyline?
This is absolutely the original storyline. One, they knew that even they knew that they wanted this reaction, and they were even already prepared. And I'm sure they instructed Natalya and Tamina and every Becky, Charlotte, all of them in that match to then take to social media and talk about how much of a travesty it was. They did that, and luckily the crowd played right along. The crowd beat them to it. I mean, the crowd was in an uprage at the moment that happened. So I think that was all manufactured and planned, and I think they, of course, wanted to time this to the return of Daniel Bryan on TV, and who better to, what a great way to reintroduce Bryan, who's been on hiatus, having his new baby. What a great way to reintroduce him by having him make a controversial decision, and one that's a babyface decision. And as we said, perhaps the hesitation in the match, perhaps the match just being subpar, again, was by design, so that way it could, it could trump itself. The second one could trump itself this Tuesday. I think absolutely it was all part of the plan. I think now looking back at it, I mean, we'll wait and see how the finish goes. This next one, but I think it was a good plan. I mean, look, the way I look at it, I kept telling everybody I was upset. Again, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be emotionally involved. That's what pro wrestling's all about. But look at the positive. This was, by the way this storyline has started to unfold after just, in 1 week, it's got 5 girls simultaneously in the spotlight involved, and that's not something WWE is often known to do. So I think this is a great, I mean, look, again, more irony. Probably the best promo in this Women's Revolution era, probably the most emotion and controversial promo in this Women's Revolution era was by Carmella this past Tuesday, and it was all anti-Women's Revolution. It was screw your girl empowerment, I'm here to win. And I think that's a great formula. When you have a revolution, put one person inside of it who is completely against it and is going to break the rules, and that tends to work. We've seen that countless times, not just in pro wrestling, but in any type of form of storytelling. When you have one person rebelling against the rest of the revolution, it opens up. So I think this was all part of the plan, and I think we're doing exactly what they want. We're talking about it, and we will. I'm very interested to see the ratings too for this next SmackDown Live. The last one was good, which we expect from a Fallout show. Let's see if the attention spans stay with this.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more completely in terms of Carmella's promo. I love that idea of, look, let's stop bringing up the fact that we're women all the time. We're not defined. Because I feel like WWE, in their ongoing pursuit to continue reminding everyone in the mainstream public that they're empowering women and pushing women, at the same time it identifies them as others, and there's always this distinction between the men and then the powerful women. And I love that idea of Carmella saying, I don't, forget this whole women's power, women. I'm just here to win. Yeah. I just want to win. I want to be the champion. I want to be the best. That's it, And so I agree with you. I love that. I love that idea of her, because it's sort of heel, because it's not very PC, so it works into her heel gimmick, but it also says, hey, look, I'm over this whole idea of men versus women, or highlighting the women over the men. Let's just get down to brass tacks and win championships here. That's what I'm here to do. But as far as Tuesday night and how this thing is booked, I really think... I really think that it will complete the picture, and we'll end up sending that good message if, and then I'll ask you who you think's going to win. If someone like a Becky Lynch or a Charlotte climbs the ladder on Tuesday night on SmackDown Live and wins this match clean, then yes, it sends everybody home happy. It puts the button on the end of that, all right, the right thing happened. The wrong thing happened at the pay-per-view. Daniel Bryan came back, he said it right, and then the right thing happened at the end, and it sort of completes the storyline. But then you have all of those people who will argue, well, we had to watch it on pay-per-view, and then you're going to just give it away on free TV. Well, to that I say, look, we're in the WWE Network era now. Yeah. So you can't... I would have been furious if I paid $60 to watch the pay-per-view at Money in the Bank, and then you're going to give me the same match. In fact, Eric Bischoff talks about it on his show. You can check it out on the cover of WrestleZone, on the homepage of WrestleZone.com right now. He thought it was a bad idea to give away the Money in the Bank match on free TV right after they did it on pay-per-view. But the problem with that is they're still calling these events pay-per-views. They're not pay-per-views. For $10 a month, we've already had 2 pay-per-views this month for a total of $10 plus everything else. So I don't think you can complain anymore like you used to be able to complain in the day and age of true pay-per-view. You had to spend $60, you got a screwball finish, only for the same match to happen a week, 2 weeks later on free television, sometimes the next night on free television. I can understand the fans feeling gypped or robbed in that sense, but those days are over. You know, so I don't have a problem with them doing the same match on free TV. I think we have to get used to WWE working this kind of model now, where they're saying, hey, we can do these screwball finishes on pay-per-view now, because it's not pay-per-view. We're not concerned with the fans spending $60 every month for a pay-per-view. You're getting 2 pay-per-views in 1 month, plus all the other content for $9.99. So I kind of dismiss that argument and that gripe. But that said, who's your pick to win this match on Tuesday night?
You know, I don't think it's gonna be wrapped up with a happy ending just yet. I think Carmella's gonna find another way to win. I don't know if it's gonna be by hook or by crook, but I feel like they've realized the mileage they can get out of this right now with the heel attention that she has. So it's gonna be on Road Dogg and the rest of his staff to figure out what's the best way to keep this thing moving. But I think one way or the other, I think Carmella's gonna find a way to get the briefcase legitimately.
I completely agree with you. My pick is Carmella too. And one of the finishes that I thought would have been great for Money in the Bank that they could potentially do on Tuesday night is have a situation where, I love the spot in the men's Money in the Bank match where the Ziggler pulled the ladder out from underneath Styles. If you did something similar to where Carmella is under the ladder like she was when she caught the briefcase, you could do something where potentially 2 other women are up top fighting for the briefcase. Maybe they both gain control of it and get it unhooked, and it somehow falls, and Carmella catches it again. So now you could do another thing where you're extending this controversy even further, which is, well, these 2 ladies unhooked it, but Carmella's the one that caught it and retained it and had possession of it, and maybe she rolls out of the ring and runs to the back with it. So, and again, if they had done that finish at Money in the Bank, then you wouldn't have had all of this outrage that the man is the one who won the briefcase, yada yada. So I think they could still do a controversial ending where Carmella wins. But I agree with you, Justin. No matter what happens, I think Carmella is winning once again on Tuesday night because I think she's the right choice for the winner.
Well, wrapping it up here, I'm going to go with some type of controversy. One of the baby faces gets to the top of the ladder, and whether the lights shut out or whether all of a sudden the briefcase starts to raise a few feet until Carmella can get back up there and it can lower and get back into reach. And of course, the man behind the light switch or the man behind the briefcase raising, of course, being the chinless wonder, James Ellsworth. Yep. Nick, thank you very much. It's been fun. Of course, Nick Paglino doing all the hard work, keeping WrestleZone.com running day to day. WrestleZone.com, all your news, plus great editorial content in print, audio, and video form like such. We will be back next weekend as we continue on here as we moving closer and closer to great balls of fire. Yes, we'll say that with all the enthusiasm we can. Make sure you stick with WrestleZone and Share Shot Reality every single week.